Yo, what is up, my fellow virgins? You mean. We already know. Hold on, I gotta restart that signal at the kid. All right, but we about to react to the fighting business. I'm fucking back like a donut. If donuts are like, all right, but we about to react to the unique case of Alex Pereira. Listen, as I assumed in my last video, I got Tom Aspin on Alex Pereira, and what the fuck happened? As exactly what I, predicted. But let's get right into this bitch, because my man Alex Pereira did everything Izzy couldn't do, and Izzy is mad. Come to daddy.
Once in a while, a guy enters the UFC, hyped up as the second coming, and he completely fucks everything and everyone up. When he's done, you're left thinking, where do we rank him? There are certain athletes who just have that aura. You see them, you know they are special, but then they accomplish a feat worth their greatness, and the discussions begin right after. Is he the greatest of all time?
I am the greatest.
I don't know about the greatest, but you don't have to be the best in order to be special. Habib was one example, 29-0, never lost a fight, barely lost a round, never bled, and he retired on top. You cannot call him the best there was, but you can definitely call him different from the pack, like a force of nature.
This is a different kind of human being. Those Russians that's a different kind of human being.
Dagestanis.
So
they grow up fighting
from time he's a baby.
Yes.
And now Alex Pereira has entered the conversation. In the last video, I mentioned that if he got the W at UFC 295,
I ain't react to that video only because I knew he was gonna make another video, because Alex Pereira won, so I wanted to do that because it made more sense. Because we already know what happens to people who fight Alex Pereira. We already know that, but I ain't gonna get to that point. But you know what I'm saying. I know the fighting business. I understand what he's doing, and I respect the shit out of it. I hope he watches this video and leave a fucking comment or fucking around, give me a motherfucking shout out for always supporting this motherfucker. I feel like out of any MMA, YouTuber that's analyzing certain things and creating their own video, I got the fighting business as #1, and this other guy named Patrick something, pretty good analysis, pretty good documentaries on certain things. But I like the fighting business because it's more, quick, and it's more, easier. But if you want to know any news about MMA, I will support the Full Mount MMA. I gotta put that link in the description because I feel like that's the best. Like, bro, I watch MMA a lot, and I always go to the fighting business and Full Mount MMA. They're the top dogs when it comes to mixed martial arts, especially the UFC. So I'm putting y'all on game.
and became double champion under 10 UFC fights, he would deserve a whole lot more. Well, he's getting it. In 2020, Alex Pereira was a retired all-time great kickboxer with nothing left to prove in the sport. Becoming a middleweight champion in glory is hard enough, but Poatan went up and captured the light heavyweight title as well, becoming the...
Whoever's new here, whoever watching this video, I'm sorry I'm pausing it like this, but if you're new, I sit here and watch this shit. We gonna watch this shit together. I ain't gonna pause it unless it's some good shit I can piggyback on, but other than that, we gonna watch this shit together like I'm not here, you feel me?
First, until date, only double champion glory.
I really saw him grow into the 2-division champion he was, and it's been an honor for me to really call his fights. So, good luck to Alex Pereira.
He made history. Didn't quite become the consensus greatest kickboxer of all time, but with this feat, he did carve out his own unique legacy as an extremely special athlete. In the same year, Pereira found a reason to head back into the world of combat sports. UFC 248 featured a championship clash between Yoel Romero and Israel Adesanya.
Snooze fest.
Someone Alex knew really well. And when the middleweight champion started talking shit, Pereira was determined to teach him a lesson for the third time.
He's gonna be at some pub talking some shit about I beat that guy one time.
When
Bitch ass nigga. You see that?
Pereira made his UFC debut, he was only known as the guy who slept Israel, but one fight, one vicious knee to the face knockout, and fans knew they were dealing with a monster.
Oh, goodness! Alex Pereira! How good is that? Wow, that's what I'm telling you.
One highlight reel on YouTube, and you knew this guy was a knockout machine with an unholy left hand, but how good was his ground game? That was definitely something to consider, but the UFC saw money and pushed a former Glory champion towards the title picture as soon as he knocked out a contender in Sean Strickland.
Is Pereira gonna play into his game by just attacking him, or do you take much from the kickboxing fight? Because as I break it down, I really don't know. I don't know what to expect, but I do feel like we finally got a guy that can match Izzy on his terms.
At UFC 281, Pereira, who was competing in his 4th UFC bout, reminded the dominant 185-pound champion that he had not changed at all. This was his 4th UFC fight, and he had dethroned one of the greatest middleweights in history. Way back in the day, Randy Couture won the heavyweight title in his 4th fight against Maurice Smith. What Alex had done was far more impressive, as Israel had been in the MMA game a lot longer, and despite getting taken down and controlled, Poatan looked ready to kill at the start of the 5th, and kill he did.
Eu me sinto muito bem, muito feliz. Já estava escrito. Eu sabia que eu ia ser campeão.
Predictably, with Israel as the top star at 185, the company booked an immediate rematch for UFC 287. And finally, on the 4th attempt, Adesanya did get the victory, regaining his middleweight crown in epic fashion. In MMA, they were 1-1, and while Alex wanted a trilogy bout, Israel had no plans to share the octagon with him again. And who could blame him?
I put so much pressure on myself that last camp. I really had to go to some dark places, and I did that for myself.
No chance for a 3rd fight and too brutal of a weight cut down to 185. Poatan sought a different route, probably with the intent to spite his rival. The light heavyweight division had gone through hell ever since John Jones vacated his title, and the title picture was wide open. With a title opportunity just 1 victory away in a striker's heavy division, Poatan moved up, just like Israel had done before, and he fought the same guy Israel lost to, Jan Blachowicz.
When I hear that he will come to our division, so I just, want to fight against him. And I say, okay, let's give it to me. Why not?
I ain't even gonna lie, Jan Blachowicz on Twitter, he was a little pressed that, Pereira won that belt. I see he seemed a little sad. We got like unfinished business done. I'm gonna be honest, you should have did more. You looked tired, Mike.
Fighting months after a bad KO loss against a guy with knockout power and a competent ground game, this was the crossroads for the former middleweight champion. At 36 years of age, Pereira had this one shot to remain in the title picture, but Jan was going to test him in all facets of MMA, especially his grappling.
He's bigger than the others. Maybe this is one different, but we'll see inside the octagon what's going to happen.
At Salt Lake City, Pereira got his hands raised in a close fight. He survived the wrestling and won the stand-up battle. And while the headlines were about Poatan tormenting Israel and securing himself a championship shot, we didn't stop to think. On paper, this guy was an MMA novice, and yet he had bested one of the more complete 205-pounders in the company, and a former champion.
We're gonna do this again, and I'm sure there's gonna be for a belt.
Best translator in fucking UFC.
And after that, doing it like this, we'll come back and talk about that with some unfinished business.
As we got closer and closer to UFC 295 at MSG, the same arena where Poatan won his middleweight title, we began to comprehend, holy shit, this guy might actually pull it off and become double champion with a handful of UFC fights. He had already defeated 3 UFC champions, and his next opponent was Yuri, someone who never truly lost his title.
Beautiful city, New York, Madison Square Garden, main event. Great opponent.
By now, it was no longer about being Israel's greatest hater. Poatan had done enough to establish his own legacy in the sport, and one left hook from hell, and we would be looking at one of the most impressive combat sports athletes to ever step inside the war zone.
Light heavyweight title fight going to be on the line as well. Yuri Prochazka, Alex Pereira. Pereira trying to become the 9th UFC fighter to win a belt in 2 different divisions.
The vacant light heavyweight title awaited a new king, as 2 of the most destructive and vicious strikers in the company faced off in the main event of UFC 295. The 2 former champions were adept at putting people to sleep, and it was a matter of who would be able to strike first. And in the second round, Alex found an opening for his patent left hook. That unholy weapon of his had won him multiple titles before, and this was no different. 1 shot, a few follow-up punches, and we were looking at the 9th double champion in UFC history.
Does that impress you, the fact?
Do y'all honestly think it was an early stoppage? Because I watched it live. I honestly thought it wasn't an early stoppage, only because I feel like, in the fight, when it, especially, Yuri said he was out. I'm going to just say it like that. Fuck all that, whatever, this and that, early stoppage. Yuri said in the fucking Octagon interview, you can rewatch it yourself, I was out. Yeah, he said I was out. So, you feel me? I'm going to go with his word, and my man's won, okay? He could come back, beat whoever he got to be, and get a rematch. You feel me? If he's, it's just people got to, you can rewrite stuff if you apply pressure to certain things. You feel what I'm saying? So, nothing is impossible.
Fact that how Alex has grown in this short period of time in MMA, and he's adapted, and he seems like he has a complete game already in just, how many fights it is.
Yeah, I think
my arm fell asleep.
I think that he and Israel Adesanya, if you look at them coming from, one style, and being able to make the transition and do as well as they've done here, it's very impressive.
Becoming a double champion in glory is an inhumane accomplishment, but crossing over in your mid-30s to a more dynamic and vicious sport and replicating the same feat, in fucking sanity. Now that he has done it, you are looking at one of the most credentialed combat sports athletes of all time.
Like I said, it's just a crazy sight to see a fighter rise to the top so fast, get this amount of respect, popularity, and fame so fast. Just felt like every step of the way was supposed to happen.
With enough championships to secure his place in the bloodied history books for decades to come, he will not surpass Anderson Silva or John Jones. He might only fight a few more times and call it a career, as he is up there in age. You cannot call him a GOAT contender, as his resume doesn't compare to guys like GSP and Jones. But much like Khabib, you, as a combat sports fan, have to give him respect. Greatest of all time? Not really, but special?
If you want to be a champion, Henry told him the truth and did it the way he did it, man. This guy is just like, if you want to be a champion, man, you gotta give it, you gotta give everything you have.
If a current glory champion moves up a division, wins the title there, and comes over to the UFC to conquer 2 divisions, then we'll talk and compare. Until then, Alex Pereira is a special, special athlete.
Facts. The fighting business ain't never lied, bro. Get that man his fucking flowers, bro. Facts. That's that motherfucking guy.